Okay, first of all, I should mention the Guild 505 spray. I probably should have mentioned this during the last segment, but this is the stuff that really you're going to use just about every time you embroider something. It's a temporary adhesive spray, and I know when I first started embroidering, I would hoop the fabric and I would slide the stabilizer underneath and let the machine do its thing. We've learned a lot since then, and what this does is it temporarily adheres your fabric to your stabilizer, and then you generally, if possible, hoop the two together for the best possible quality of embroidery. Now, you don't spray this on your fabric, you spray it on your stabilizer. So you would lay your piece of stabilizer on a surface, and when you hoop, anytime you hoop, you definitely want to do it on a counter hoop. Don't try to do it on your lap. I tend to do, or on the floor. I tend to do mine on my cutting table in my sewing room. And then you spray the piece of stabilizer, you smooth out your fabric. Always want to make sure your fabric is pressed and smooth. You might even lightly use best press or spray starch to give it a little bit of extra body. And then you pick the two pieces up together and you put them in the hoop, and this will hold it for you temporarily. Now, it says it dissipates in about 12 hours. I found it to take a little bit longer than that, or it washes out the first time you wash the garment or the tablecloth or whatever you happen to be embroidering. But it's great stuff. It works very, very well. If you're not a constant embroiderer, I would suggest you buy the smaller one. The cap can get gunked up with excess stabilizer. If that happens, just take it off. I soaked mine once in a little custard cup with some Goo Gone in it, and that cleared it right out. It doesn't happen very often. It has to sit for quite a long time. But just if you're only an occasional embroiderer, I would suggest you just buy the smaller size. But either one, this works great. Now let me talk about some of the specialized stabilizers, for lack of a better explanation. And the first one I want to talk about is Applique Fuse and Fix. This stuff is wonderful for applique. Now, we learned to do applique in embroidery class 3, so we will actually be talking about the methods of how to do it in that class. But many times the embroidery designs will come with printable appliques that you can use as patterns. But if you just cut those out and then put it on your fabric and then try to cut it out again, it's very, very easy to not get it quite perfect. And you really need to have it, it's pre-digitized to do the applique, so you need to have it cut pretty spot on so that you can be sure that when you go to stitch it down, that it's correct and not off, and you don't have gaps or overlaps or whatever. And this stuff, Applique Fuse and Fix, is wonderful. You can actually put this in the printer, put this in your printer and print off the shapes, and then fuse this to your fabric and then cut them out, and they will be just perfect, the perfect size for what you need. And here's an example of a piece that I did with it. I printed off all these little petals on my a sheet of this, and then I fused it to my fabric, and I was able to fussy cut the leaves so that the certain colors would go in a certain spot. And then the other beauty of this is that when you go to place it, your machine will stitch out a placement line, and then you'll take your piece of fabric and you will put it in there, put it on that placement line. This has a sticky backing to it, so when you place your fabric on there, if it's a little bit off, you can peel it off, and then you can reposition it and put it exactly where you want it to be. Once you press it, it's permanent, but until you press it, it can be moved and shifted and redone however you want. So I'm a huge fan of this stuff. When I first got mine, it was a smaller sheet, but now I think they're 8.5 by 11, so you can just run them through your printer. You used to have to, I used 505 spray, sprayed it to a piece of cardstock, and then ran it through my printer, but these are now larger so that you can run them directly through your printer and have perfect little applique pieces, in which case this actually printed off enough for 2, so if I ever want to make another one, I've got them all ready to go, and I can just put them on my fabric and cut them out and go from there. So that's Applique, Fuse, and Fix. I talked a little bit about the Washaway and the Washaway stabilizers, about topping for our textured fabrics, and I talked about using the Stitch H2O, which I showed you earlier. Now the disadvantage to this is that it does eventually wash away. It's a washaway stabilizer, so if you've done a towel with a monogram, it looks perfect, and then it gets washed, you may find that it loses its ability to cover. Now if you're doing a pretty guest towel that's just going to hang in the bathroom and look pretty, that's fine. But if you're making beach towels for your children or grandchildren that's going to go dragged to the pool every day and back again and washed all the time, you may want to stick with something like this. This is called Top Cover, and it's like a thin sheet of plastic, and it does not wash away. So if you put this behind that design or monogram for that beach towel, when you're finished, you can very easily tear it away, but what's left underneath the stitching will stay in place. So it'll stay in place for repeated washings for that towel or tablecloth or whatever. So just know that this is a more permanent, and in here we have 3 colors. We have beige, black, and white. So you can match the towel. If it's a black towel, you probably want to put, you know, a black topping on it, or maybe you want white to make your white stitching on the black towel show up. It's one of those things, it's a personal choice, but this stuff works very, very well and will hold up to repeated use and washings. We also have something called OESD fiber form, and this is for embroidering things like boxes and bags and things that need stiffener to hold their shape. And I'll show you, this is a project that Jodelle recently completed. It's a new design from I think OESD or Scissortail Stitches. They have a new company now that they purchased, and it's puzzle pieces. And Jodelle stitched them out on felt, which is the blue that you see, but the fiber form is in the back, and it gives them their stiffness so that children can play with them and put the pieces together, and it creates a little puzzle. So this gives you some idea of how stiff this is, and for any project that you need stability, this works very well. No, I don't. This piece goes here, for example. This one is zoo animals. There's a farm animal one, and then there's also a third one. But they're very, very cute. And she's actually teaching a class next Tuesday here at the store on how to make these. So if you're interested, you might want to think about that. Now, I mentioned using the sticky stabilizers to adhere things. We have a couple of different types of tape. Here is a Washaway tape. So if you wanted to tape a piece of ribbon or trim or something down to your hoop, you can use this. If you stitch through it, no problem, you can just wash it away. And then here is a tearaway tape. So again, if you've got something that you want to embroider, sometimes with ribbons and trims and some of the lighter weight things, if you use the sticky stabilizers, they're a little bit too much. It's hard to get that ribbon off without distorting it. So using this to tape things down is preferable. I've used painter's tape before. That works fine too. And then the other thing is, if you have something that's dark, and usually you mark the center of your design. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But if you mark the center of your design and the pens and things don't show up, a chalk pencil will, but they won't show up. So if you put a piece of tape in the center, sometimes towels are even hard to mark because of the roughness of the surface. So put a piece of tape down and then place your mark in the center of the hoop on the tape, and then you can just pull it off later, tear it away, or you can, again, wash it away. So those two tapes make it very easy. I mentioned earlier that sometimes with the sticky stabilizers you can get, well, it doesn't even have to be a sticky stabilizer. There are just sometimes when, for whatever reason, you'll be embroidering along and it'll be beautiful, but then we have one spot where we have a little loop of thread. Might be 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch loop. And then it'll go on and sew again. For whatever reason, it gets a little bit caught on something. It used to happen more with the sticky stabilizers. That's why I like the titanium needles so much, because there is drag on that needle going through that sticky stabilizer, and it can cause a little loop. So if that happens, here is a special little called loop and tail wand. And what it is has a sharp point at one end, like a needle, and at the other end, the metal is etched, so it's rough. So you could just take this point, put it at the base of that little loop, and just pull it through, and the rough part will pull that loop through so that it's nice and smooth, and the top of your embroidery looks nice. I've had instances where I've had that happen 2 or 3 times in a project. Just take this, put it in there, pull it through, and it works just fine. This is one of those things that I always take great care to put back in the right place when I'm done with it, because it's very easy to lose. It's so small. So it comes with a little, oh, it doesn't anymore, it used to. But make sure you put that in a safe place so that you can find it the next time you need it. You can also bury tails of thread with it. It's just a great little handy tool. And then we also have the alligator clamps, and these allow you to grab small pieces, and they're especially useful for the freestanding lace. This is the Christmas little gingerbread cottage, and you'll notice right here that the machine stitches out buttonholes on one piece and a little ribbed button on the other. Trying to pull that through with your thumb and forefinger is next to impossible. It's stressful. I've done it, and it's not easy. So we have these little alligator clamps, and you can grab the end of the button and pull it through that little tiny, tiny buttonhole. And again, it makes life much, much easier. Every embroiderer needs a special pair of embroidery scissors, and I have several different types here. These are the ones that I really like. These are Ginger. These are my personal pair, and you'll notice that they're curved like that. So you can reach over the hoop and under the foot to clip threads. Now the machines today do automatic clipping. They'll cut the jump threads in for you. Sometimes that's great, sometimes it's not. If I have something that you can, like a towel, a guest towel or something that I'm embroidering, and I can flip it around and I can see the back, I don't like all those little threads that are back there. So I tend to turn that off when I'm doing those types of projects, and I have to manually cut the jump threads. But what I like about it, having to cut at them myself, is that my bobbin thread is all one, all through the back, so I don't have a lot of little spare pieces that are showing. But these are the Ginger ones. They come 2 ways. They come this way, and then they also come, there's a second set available that has larger finger holes. So depending on how big your hands are, how large your fingers are, that'll determine which ones you like. Some people like the bigger ones. I happen to like these smaller ones, and I've used these for years. OESD has a new pair of scissors out now, and they look like this. I haven't had these very long. I haven't even had a chance to use them yet. Now these are nice for trimming appliques in the hoop. Sometimes it'll tack the fabric down and you trim the excess. But you'll notice that these are curved. Instead of having the tips of the scissors, these are curved to go over the edge of the hoop and down under. So again, it just all depends on what feels the most comfortable to you. We have these scissors. These are nice. I don't have a pair of these personally, but these are nice. Scissors have a way of disappearing under all the stuff around your machine. These don't get lost because they have the large red handles, but they are also curved on the tips, very, very sharp. Karen K. Buckley scissors, we have several different types of her scissors, and I have some of the others, and I like them very, very much. So these are very sharp, very pointed, but you need something small and kind of curved so you can get under the foot. And then these are something, they've had these around for a while, but these are actually called squizzers. And you can pick them up and use them, I think, more quickly than you can something like this where you have to pick them up and put your fingers through to use them. With these, you just simply squeeze this together and it snips your thread. It also has a very, very, very tiny, tiny tip. You can sort of see that. So it gets in under the finest, tiniest little jump threads to allow you to clip. So any of these will work just fine. Also, I talked about marking. This is a friction pen. These we carry them in black here, but you can get them in other colors. And these are wonderful for marking in your hoop the center of a design. They have a very, very fine point. They will mark on the tape, or they can mark directly on the fabric. And when you are marking in your hoop, one thing you might want to pick up, I got these at Hobby Lobby. This is a 6 by 1 inch flexible ruler, and it will fit down inside of the hoop. So you can lay that, mark your dots, top and bottom, and then lay this in the hoop and then draw your center lines very, very easily because it's so tiny. And it's very flexible, so if it's a little bit too wide for the smaller hoops, it works well. I also have the 12-inch one that I use in the larger hoops, but they're tiny, they're easy to get inside that hoop to mark my center spots. One thing about the friction pens, I absolutely love them. If you haven't heard of them, they are heat. You touch the tip of your iron to the mark to get it to disappear. These were not really developed to use in sewing. They're an erasable pen. I've actually written with them, and that's the part that erases the ink for you. But somebody along the way discovered that they disappear with heat, and now all sewing stores carry them. The only issue that you have to be careful with, and I've only had this happen one time, but make sure you mark on a scrap piece of fabric first, because I did have one instance where I was embroidering on a Wedgwood blue linen, and I put the little mark in the center, and when I ironed it to get rid of that mark, it took the color out of the fabric. It's the only time it's ever happened, but I just be forewarned that you have to be careful with these. Don't just, willy-nilly mark it, a lot of things until you check it. Mark it on a scrap of fabric. Use the iron to iron it away to make sure that it is totally, totally gone. And then one other thing I'd like to share with you is this little stash and store, they're called. And I keep this small one next to my, or one like it, next to my embroidery machine. This is my travel one. But I can put my little marking pen, I can put my ruler in here, I can put my scissors in here, and it's right next to my machine so that I can have everything readily right there and I'm not searching for it. Things have a way of getting buried. It happens to me all the time, so this has helped alleviate that problem a lot. Oh, here's one more thing. With the 4, 5, and 7 series machines, they all take this new wonderful jumbo bobbin. Absolutely love it. I can sew forever and not have to worry about changing my bobbin. But they are not as easy to adjust tension-wise. They work so well that it's very difficult to adjust the tension on them. So Bernina did come out with this new high thread tension bobbin case, which gives you a little bit more tension for machine embroidery as well as decorative stitching for fiber arts. I have not used this yet. I purchased it a while ago and I haven't had a chance to use it, but I mentioned previously about excuse me, doing free motion embroidery and not putting the metallic thread, or not free motion embroidery, I'm sorry, freestanding lace embroidery, and not putting metallic thread in my bobbin, this actually would pull that bobbin thread down even further to cover it up. So I'm anxious to I'll probably do some more snowflakes this year. I'm anxious to try this with the freestanding lace embroidery and see how it works, as well as other applications. But it is a high tension bobbin case, and it's obvious what it is because it's bright yellow, so you can't get the black one mixed up with this one. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the different hoops. And I think all the machines come with at least the large oval and the medium. The medium is the one that's about square, about like that. It embroiders about 5 by 5 roughly. With any embroidery, you always want to use the smallest hoop possible. If you pull up a design and it says use the medium hoop, use the medium hoop, because that's going to hold it for you better. You never want to do a tiny, tiny little thing in that large oval hoop. It's just won't hold it as well. So we do have other hoops. Some of the top of the lines, I believe, come with 3 hoops. They come with the large oval and the medium, and then they also come with the small. And the small one is this size. I use this for onesies. I use it for napkin corners. Got some, Jadelle made these. You can, do a small monogram on a napkin. Children's clothing. I embroidered the cuff of some leggings for one of my granddaughters on it. So it's a hoop I use fairly frequently for smaller designs. If you're going to do a monogram on a man's shirt or the pocket or whatever, this is the hoop that you want to use. And with a onesie, you can actually, if the design will fit, you can actually slide this through the sleeve, through the side to the front, and then get into it very easily. So it's a great hoop for your smaller items. This hoop has been around for quite a while. This one is called the Mega Hoop. And again, it gives you the same width as your large oval hoop, but it gives you much more length. I think the maximum is 16 inches. So if you are doing a border on something that's not terribly wide, this works beautifully. I've done borders on sheets across the top. Pillowcases, if it'll fit, you can slit the bottom seam on a pillowcase and use it for that. Tablecloth borders. I've done valances with them. So it's a wonderful, wonderful hoop, and it saves you so much time and energy re-hooping. You can do, again, most you hope to do with the oval hoop is, I think, 9 or 10 inches. This gives you an extra 6 inches, so you don't have to re-hoop if you're doing a border as much. Now, when this came out years ago, it has 3 different locking positions. And this is A, B, C. So the designs that this hoop used at that time were already digitized so that it would tell you which position to put the hoop in. Very often it was A, B, C, but sometimes it was A, C, and then you'd go back to B. With the newer machines, the 7 series up, you can actually use this. You put it in the middle position, like that, the B position, and it will actually move and embroider that whole thing for you. With the 5 series and the older machines, you have to re-clamp it and move it yourself manually to A, B, or C, but the machine will tell you where you need to move it. So it's very, very easy to use. It's one I've used a lot. There's also, it's a midi hoop, and it actually, it's a little bit larger than the large oval hoop that came with your machine. I didn't have one on the floor to show you today, but it's a bit larger than the large oval. It gives you maybe an extra inch all the way around. But the nice thing about that is it has the new kind of tightener on it. It's got a large knob, and so you put your fabric in there and you turn the knob, and it's very easy to do, much easier than that little set screw. And then when you go to take it out, there's a little clamp that you push and it pops everything out for you very, very easily. So it's just a little bit bigger than the large oval. Now the 7 and 8 series have two very large hoops, which are wonderful. You can add, this is the jumbo hoop, this is the biggest one. You can use this on the 7 series machines, but it will only embroider about 2/3 of the distance over. You can't use the whole thing. This is, the large jumbo is, for the largest, you have to have the 880 to be able to use this in the largest version. And then this is the maxi hoop. This is for the 7 series. And it's the same length, I believe, but it's just a little narrower. The 7 series machine has 10 inches from the needle over to the side of the machine, whereas the 880 has 12. So it gives it a little bit more space. But again, I have a 7 series and an 8, and I've used the jumbo on the 7 and it works fine. I just know that I can't. I have a different grid, a 7 grid, so I know how far over it will go. So either one will work just fine. And then the last specialty hoop is the hat hoop. And this works in conjunction with your large oval. It fits down inside, and then it has knobs here, and you can slide the bill of the hat in here. You use this with sticky stabilizer to hold the hat down for you. If not, you have to try to pin it, and it's not worth it. Just use the sticky stabilizer because it holds it so nicely. But this will hold this in place for you so that you can embroider your ball cap, or you can, put the flap of a purse on here, or whatever you want to do. That clamp will help hold it for you. Comes with complete instructions inside, and on the newer machines in the hoop menu, there's actually an icon for the hat hoop. So when you touch that, it's not going to let you stitch anything too large, because even though this does fit in the large oval hoop that comes with your machine, you can see that the embroidery surface is much smaller. So by having that icon, it's insurance, and it keeps you from putting a design in there that's too large for the hat hoop. Okay, it's called the Hoopin' Buddies hat hoop insert. Oh, I should have showed this earlier, but this is something you can do on the mega hoop. I did not do this on the mega hoop, but I could have done, almost all of it in one hooping, as opposed to having to hoop 3 times with one of the other hoops. So this is definitely an advantage, and it saves you so much time. Trying to re-hoop and get everything lined up perfectly is a chore, even for a seasoned embroiderer. So the larger hoops do save you a lot of time and effort. And then one other thing that I like to use, sometimes when you're embroidering a large item, a sheet, or maybe you're doing a t-shirt, and you've got it turned inside out, you've got it in the hoop, and you've got the sleeves, and you've got all the extra fabric. It's nice to have a way to anchor that. And we have these little wonder clips now. These are the tiny ones. They're not going to hold a lot, but we also have the bigger ones. You can see these up close. And what you can do is roll up your excess fabric and clip it around to the side of the hoop to hold all that excess out of the way for you. Some people will use painter's tape for the same thing, but these clips are just so easy. You've got your hand on it, you got it rolled up just the way you want it. You grab the clip, stick it on there, and it holds it for you. Now, again, anytime you use anything extra like this, you always want to use your check feature, just to be sure the machine isn't going to hit one of these clips. These are a little more dangerous than these are because these are tiny, but these work very, very well to hold your fabric out of the way. Now, as far as designs go, there are hundreds and hundreds of sites out there where you can get designs. I love OESD. They always have beautiful, beautiful designs on their site. They're beautifully digitized. You don't have to worry about stitching them out. Although they have a saying, there are two kinds of embroiderers, those who do a test sew and those who wish they had. So sometimes it's easier if you just test a design for color, for size. There's many reasons to test it. If you've taken my Embroidery 1 class, you know that I've recommended that you buy some cheap felt. Go to Joann's, buy a yard of that 72-inch wide felt. It's a great thing for test sewing a design, to test size, whatever. If you end up not liking it, you haven't wasted much money, you can just throw it away and start something else. But it's always a good idea to do a test sew, especially if you go to kind of an unknown site where they may or may not. Digitizing is a true art and a true talent, and not everybody is equal in digitizing. There was a site out there for years called Anne the Gran. I believe it's still around, but anybody could post designs they had digitized on that site. And I had a couple, they're free, I downloaded them, and they were just awful. They didn't have underlay stitching. I ended up never using them, but I'm glad I test sewed first before I tried to put it on something. So just be forewarned that not all of them are created equal. You want to download designs in art if you have a Bernina. The newer machines do use EXP, but they will convert the art format to EXP, and you just get a better quality design overall. There's another site that I like called Embroidery Library. They have some really nice things on their site. Embroidery designs have come down in price greatly since they first started. They're much less expensive. If you get on OESD's mailing list, they'll email you with specials and new things all the time, and they are one of the sites that changes. They have quite a few free designs posted, and they do change those fairly frequently. So I try to remember to check that site every month or so just to see what the free designs are. Now, if you're new to downloading designs, what I would recommend you do is to go to the website. Most of them nowadays will give you instructions on how to download. And download one of the free ones, even if you don't like it. It gives you practice in downloading, and if you mess it up, you're not out anything. So always download one of the free ones first and test it to be sure. Now, to do that, you do need software, and Bernina has a software program, Embroidery Software 8. The software designs are not inexpensive, so unless you're going to do a lot of digitizing, this probably isn't something you'll want to invest in, but it does allow you to do just about anything you can imagine as far as embroidery. You can digitize, you can do auto-digitizing, you can change designs, you can mine designs. There's just all kinds of things. Some people love it, some people don't get into it, so I just wanted you to know that it was available. You can, if you're just wanting to sort of get your feet wet, you can download a free software program on Bernina's website, bernina.com, and it's called Artlink. And it's very limited, but you can enlarge designs, you can reduce designs, and the most important thing is that you can get a free design or a design from OESD and download it, and that way you can get it into your machine. The best way to do it, you can hook your machine directly up to your computer, but the best way is to get a USB stick, put it on the USB stick, take the USB stick out, and put it on your machine. But Artlink is free, and it allows you to do that. We also have another software program. It's a less expensive one. I don't think you can digitize with this one, but you can do all kinds of things with it, and it's called Toolbox. And you actually can download a free 30-day trial, again on Bernina's website, to try this. You can buy it in, you can buy the whole thing, but you can also buy just parts and pieces. So for example, there's an editing one. There's one on monogramming, one on lettering, different ones. And Bernina has posted dozens of videos on how to use this. It's touted as being very, very easy, very user-friendly. So you can go to download it, and then go to their website and watch the videos and just see what you might like to do or how easy it is to use. So that's Bernina Toolbox. We have these little cards here in the store, and it's go to bernina.com/toolbox trial. So if you can read that, you can see that. But if you just go to the Bernina website and just type in Toolbox download, I'm sure you'll get to it. Okay, now as far as other designs, we do have some ready-made ones here in the store. These are just a couple of examples. This is a little children's book, and it comes with the designs inside, as well as, there might even be a piece of fabric in here, I'm not sure. I can't open it without breaking the seal, but allows you to stitch out, and the instructions for making these cute little children's books. This one's is Friends of the Sea, 1, 2, 3, and then this one is an alphabet one. R is for robot. But the beauty of it is that they come with the 3D glasses that the child can put on, and based on the colors that they tell you to use, the designs look very much three-dimensional. So it's a lot of fun. If you need more than one pair of glasses, we can order more glasses from OESD. But here's just a sampling that we've stitched out here to show you what they look like. They're kind of fun to make. And then we have years ago, when you would want to embroidery came out in the mid-90s. And the internet was sort of in its infancy at that time. So if you wanted designs, you bought them purchased like this. And back in when I got my first embroidery machine, they came on little cards that you'd stick it into the machine, and then you could pull up the design that you wanted. Well, then OESD started, they had opened their website, and you could buy designs online. But you had to come in here, we had to do it for you, and you'd buy a set of designs. And then they got to the point where you could pick individual designs. Now, people are more computer literate. You can go to their website and download 1 or 100 designs, depending on what you want to do. We still have some of the collections here in the store. This is on a CD. They do come on USB sticks too, but we have the CD ones, and there are several designs in the back. You can see how pretty they are. And that way you have an entire collection of designs that you can pull from. And having them on a CD, you've got them at home, easy to do. And many times the websites will also offer them on a CD or on a USB stick if you prefer to do that. We've got some little mini designs. I'll talk about the additions to the software here in a minute, but these are pre-done crystal work and some cut work designs. This one does paint work and crystal works. These are a lot less expensive, but they are already done for you. And then here's an example of another one that we have. This one is actually, you can embroider on paper and make greeting cards, and it gives you the instructions plus the designs. Here's a sample of one that Jodelle made, so you can make your own greeting cards. Now we also have an additional software program, and you can buy, there's three different ones: cut work, paint work, and crystal works. And you can buy one or all three, depending on what you want to do. If you don't want to get into that, you can, there's so many designs that are already done, you can just buy the designs and use the tools. But this is, again, the design work program, and for doing painting, crystal work, and cut work. Now, the tools are sold separately, and I have the cut work tool, And this is an example of something that you can do with the cutwork tool. You pull in your word, and what the cutwork tool does is cut out designs for you, and then you pull it back in and put it in applique mode, and then it appliques all of those letters on for you automatically. You can cut out quilt blocks with it. You can make doilies, but it pre-cuts all the fabric for you. And you want to use, I showed you earlier, I showed you the heavy tearaway stabilizer. You simply hoop that in your hoop of your machine, and then you just lay your fabric on top, and it cuts out the different designs. There are complete instructions with it to show you how to use it. So that's the cutwork tool. And then the paintwork tool is really neat. Whoever thought you could make dishes with your paintwork, or with your sewing machine, but you can. It's a tool that attaches to the machine, and it has an opening where you put like a magic marker, for lack of a better, or fabric marker, and it paints the design for you, much like it stitches with a needle. Well, it paints with the different paint pens, and you can buy a set of them that are especially used for the paintwork tool. But it's a lot of fun to create different things. Laura made these little dessert or appetizer plates. Now, you can't put these in the dishwasher, but they are safe to use for eating. And you can paint fabric, you can paint, you know, all kinds of things. This would have been, the stabilizer would have been hooped in the hoop, and then this would have been stuck, probably a sticky stabilizer. You stick the plate onto the sticky stabilizer so it won't move, and then it does the design for you. But most of the machines now come with some built-in paintwork, crystal work, and cutwork designs so that you can try the tool if you decide you wanted to use it. And the crystal work tool, there's a special, like a waxed paper, for lack of a better explanation, and what it does is it punches holes in that paper pattern, and then you take that and you put it on the garment, and you put your crystals in there, and then you just iron them into place, so it creates a pattern for you. Okay? And I think I have covered just about everything. I want to thank you for joining me today, and please know that you are welcome to call us if you have any questions. We all embroider, so even if I'm not here, they can answer questions for you, and I will look forward to seeing you in Embroidery 1 and Embroidery 3, where we actually get to do some of this stuff. Bye for now. Thank you.